Hello, good morning or afternoon now actually. It's been a busy day here and I thought I would pop on and take you through my process for making a new recipe. This is going to be an apple cinnamon oatmeal bar. And hi Christy. And I always take recipes and kind of take a little bit from one recipe and then take a little bit from another. So I will kind of walk you through how that process works to give you some tips on how to do it in your own kitchen. But more importantly, we're going to walk through this fun little snack recipe that's like super easy. And you can mix and match the fruit in it to make it palate friendly depending on what your kids like. So we're going to do the apple cinnamon oat bars, and this recipe is going to go up on the blog once this new version kind of comes out and we test it out. I've done another version and I didn't use an egg for people who have egg allergies, and it tasted great, but it was too crumbly. So today I'm going to throw an egg in and see if it helps bind it together a little bit more. So these are like really simple ingredients that most of you probably have in your pantry. I had some apples that were starting to turn. I throw them in the fridge as soon as I see a couple spots. And then I know I'm either gonna cook them up for applesauce and apple compote or apple muffins, or now this apple cinnamon oat bar. So, but the very first thing we're gonna do is, this is just 1 teaspoon of chia seeds, and we're gonna add it to 3 tablespoons of water. This is gonna create like a little bit of a gel. It helps to thicken up the bar. And I like the addition of the chia seeds from a health and fiber perspective, but I find this doesn't always hold everything together quite as well as an egg. So if you have egg allergies, you can just stick with the chia seed. It's called an egg replacement, and do that. So that takes about 10 minutes or a little less. The key is stir 2 or 3 times as it's sitting here, and that makes a big difference to keep it together. The other thing I did already is I took regular oats, which I just put aside. I love these. These are the Nature's Path. So it's gluten-free and organic. Those two in combination are actually really hard to find. So I buy these in bulk from Amazon. I think we get like either 8 or 12 at a time. So they go to the very tippity top of the pantry. We go through a ton between making granola, oatmeal, snack bars, etc. So, and we use our oat flour for pancakes pretty much every weekend. So all you do is take regular oats, put them in your high-speed blender, blend it up until you get a nice flour consistency. So this is 2.5 cups. We're just going to add this to the bowl here and do our dry stuff first. We are going to add in just a teaspoon of baking powder. Helps give it a little bit of a lift, but not too much. We're not making a cake or a muffin that needs to rise. We're going to do 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, because this really is a apple cinnamon oat bar. We are going to do 1 other cup of oats. This gives it a nice texture and again helps hold everything together. Look at that little wave function. I am purposely making myself do a few more lives for cooking demos. I have a bunch of corporate cooking classes coming up and some meal prep cooking classes again, and I was like, I'm a little out of practice. I need to get back on, and I thought this was a fun recipe to show everybody. So the last thing in the dry bin is some, I'm going to use raisins as a little extra sweetener. The only 2 sweeteners in here are 3 apples, raisins, and a little bit of maple syrup, but not too much. So last thing is 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt. Get that in. Let me see if you can see this up here. Try to use glass so everyone can see. Just giving it a quick whisk so that the dry stuff is all done once we get the wet stuff put together. And the apples are really fun in this recipe. You kind of use them in 2 different ways. So I'm going to put the dry stuff aside for a sec. And the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to take 2 of these apples. I think they were Gala apples. Honeycrisp is fine. The Macintosh, I just think Macintosh goes with everything, so that's easy. I'm not even peeling them. I'm just gonna give them a chop, take the core out on all of these, because these are gonna go in the blender. So we're almost, it's like we're making a really fast applesauce, but instead of cooking it, we're just using the blender to do all the work, to break it down, and then we're gonna use that as a wet ingredient in the recipe. So again, a great way to use up apples that are kind of a little bit past their prime, but totally fine to use for baking recipes. And if all goes well, I will put all the measurements on the blog this week at Emily Roach Wellness, so that you can get it printed out, put it in your recipe binder, and save this, test it out with your family. This one has it's a good, like if you just don't want something heavy in the morning, this is going to be a great grab and go option. So I just have I have to figure out how to do this, get this elevated again, because I hate to put this down. So these are all just roughly chopped, that's all. Keep it really simple. I'm not even going to clean this out from the oat flour. We're just going to put these right in there. The less cleaning we have to do, the better. Put that over here. Actually, we're going to chop the walnuts shortly, so I'm going to keep those aside. We have about a half a cup of walnuts that we're going to use. But in here, we're going to add, I'm going to give this, see, my chia seed pudding actually came together super fast already. I'm giving it one last stir. You can see this is the consistency that you want, where it goes like that. So this one's actually ready. I'm going to put that in here in a minute. I'm going to do this, about a third of a cup of maple syrup. This is half a cup of almond milk. The oats soak up a lot of moisture, so that's why we have quite a few things in here. If you didn't have almond milk, I have this is my homemade almond milk. I finally treated myself to cute bottles this year. You could do any kind of milk you have in the house. I would definitely think cashew milk, oat milk are two great options. If you need to have nut-free milk, you can use regular milk. I would always opt for a whole milk versus a skim milk. You're just not going to have the same balance of flavors in there. We're going to crack one egg, and so this is what's different about this recipe versus some of the others. Always crack on a flat surface. Don't crack on the hard edge. The reason is, if you crack it on a flat surface, you're less likely to get shells in your recipe. So, little tip for the day. So always crack your egg on a flat surface and not the top of a pan, blender, your mixing bowl. Just like a quick little trick that makes all the difference. I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of vanilla. If you've been to my cooking classes before, I don't often measure things once we get to things like a teaspoon of whatnot. It's like it's close enough. So we're going to, last piece, put these cheese seed eggs in there. So this is going to be a little on the thicker side. Try to keep cleaning as we go. I'm going to slide that down for a sec. Where did I put my... Oh, I moved my base of the blender. Hold on. There we go. Sorry, we'll slide that back. So we have stuff out. Make sure your cover's on tight. Get the light back on. This will be loud for a second, so you can close your eyes, close your ears. And I'm gonna do, I have the Blend Tech, and I'm gonna do it on, it's called juice. And there's like smoothie and juice. The whole juice one kind of really breaks it down a little bit more, and since the apples are not cooked at all, I'm going to use that, but I just won't do it for the full cycle. So, block your ears. enough. So everything's pureed, all good to go. We're gonna leave that here aside. You can see it's very liquidy. Keep the peel on. It just adds that extra little bit of fiber, which is great. So we're gonna do that. And then I'm gonna actually chop the almonds. No, sorry. I'm gonna use walnuts this time. I've done almonds before. So I'm gonna, it's so weird. My light keeps going, like the phone wants to turn off. So I'm just giving these a little rough chop. It's just a half a cup of walnuts. If you're doing this nut-free, you can omit them. I like it for the texture that it adds. You can also do this with toasted almonds, so you don't have to do the chopping. You can just mix the same amount in. You can also do pecans are great. I skipped this step of roasting them. I just think it's unnecessary for this type of quick snack. Whenever I make things like this, my kids eat them so fast that I don't want to spend so much time cooking it. I just want it to be quick. This is taking me longer because I'm explaining everything, but it really is. Once you make it once or twice, it goes really quick. So I'm going to throw the walnuts in the dry ingredients. And then you're going to mix all this up together. I'm going to push this back a little bit for a second so that you guys can see, and grab a better spatula for one that. That's all mixed in. There we go. It looks like the sun is still not coming out yet here. I'm outside Boston and it is still gray. It was supposed to be, it says 70 today, but doesn't feel that way yet. So we'll see what happens. But I love having a little sweet treat like this in the house. I try to, the way my meal planning map works in my head is that I always make one type of bread, muffin, snack item like this every week, so that there is always something I can now throw into the lunch boxes every day, or I can grab a quick something if I've got back-to-back meetings that I know has, you know, a good mix of fat, fiber, and protein. Those are the three you always need to make sure that you're gonna stay full, that it's gonna kind of hit the mark and you're not gonna keep snacking. So this batter is like, it's nice and thick, but not too thick and dry. So there's a fine balance between them when you're working through making any type of oat or granola bar. A lot of times people get discouraged making oatmeal and granola bars because they bake them and they totally fall apart. So the secret is making sure there's enough moisture. So we accomplish that with the apples. That's definitely one of the best things, the addition there. And the other key thing is that we're gonna cook it for about 22 to 25 minutes, and then we're gonna let it cool. We're gonna let it cool on the stove for a while. It's in a parchment lined pan, and see it has these little binder clips. That's how I always keep my parchment in place. And because they're metal, you can actually just throw them into the oven that way. You don't have to take them off. I usually just take them off for photos. So we're gonna take about half of it and put it in the bottom. So this is just an 8x8 recipe pan, glass pan, sorry, recipe pan. What is that? Nice and flat enough. There. Then I'm gonna take one of my apples and my sharp knife. I'm just gonna clear it off from the nuts. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take one good edge to it and we're gonna make it flat. Just clearing that. Always clear your board with the flat side so you don't dull your knife. We're just gonna do like really skinny slices of our apples, because we're gonna layer these apples into the bar. I got this, the inspiration for this recipe from Laura Lee Balanced cookbooks. I absolutely love her cookbooks. So we have these nice, really, really thin pieces of apples. So we're gonna take this, just layer them in. Now we'll probably we'll have to do a couple of those. Let's see. we want to make sure everyone gets a nice bite of apple. And everyone. So it looks like I'll need maybe another one, maybe 1.5. And then you can do the same thing on the top or skip it, depending on how many apples you have kind of sitting around. You can do this with totally fresh apples. You don't have to have older apples that have languished on your countertop like what happened to us. We were going through so much fruit with kids on school break, and then we had a busy weekend and nobody was around as much. So, and I think they were actually more excited because I picked up watermelon and it was really, really good this weekend. I never buy watermelon in the winter. We've gotten burned by really mealy watermelon, which is just the worst when you're excited for it. But we tested it out recently and it was awesome. So that was a great little sweet treat this weekend to have some watermelon on hand. So the apples didn't get eaten up, so we're gonna use them up and finish up our apple cinnamon oat bar. So here, get a good peek. So it's all layered up. So that's the single layer. Now we're just gonna top it with the rest of the batter. And if you have trouble spreading it, the two tricks are use your hands, get a little water on them or oil. I just put sometimes a little bit of olive oil whenever I'm doing a recipe where I need to spread it out and it's not cooperating. The other thing you can do is I really find these silicone spatulas are awesome. And I don't know why my phone keeps going dark. Just use the back of it. That's the best way. Try not to pick it up because when you pick it up, you're gonna pick up everything else with it. So you're gonna keep it really smooth. You wanna pack it down there as best you can because that's gonna help keep everything together and not crumbly. That's another key step people miss when they're making their granola bars because there's just like too much air in there. So that is nice and flat. This is packed down now. I'm gonna take this last little bit of, I have two different apples here. One with this little yellow color. I'm gonna take a few, and I probably have enough to cover the whole top. Here we go. I don't know what's happening with that. So I'm just gonna take the last bit, layer them on, make it look pretty, but not too pretty because they're gonna disappear so fast. So I always say, like, have fun, decorating food stuff, but don't get stressed out making it super fancy, especially if it's for your kids who are gonna eat it super fast and not give you any credit for making it fancy anyway. Okay, it's really hard to cut the peel sometimes when they are getting older, which is that's why I just skip the peeling part because you don't want to hurt your fingers. So I'm trying to just do the nice rocking, cutting motion to get through these cleanly. But again, it's good to keep the peel on there, good fiber. All right, this is just about done. This is going to go in the oven for 22 minutes, 22 to 25. Just until it gets like a nice golden brown. And then these are going to be good to go. And then again, let it cool for a while. I'm obviously not keeping you on this video until it's done, so you can come back to my stories later and I'll show you the finished product, and look for the blog post later with all the ingredients. And thank you for joining the little cooking demo today. I'm Emily Roach. Find me over at emilyroachwellness.com, and you can hop on the newsletter if you want to get the recipe in your inbox later this week. Bye, friends.